And it is time for the last AEW Dynamite review of 2023 here on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. Hello, I'm Mr. Warren Hayes himself. Nice to see you. Welcome to this auspicious occasion where we made it, guys. We did it. We made it to the end of the year again, despite the fact that over the past couple of days I wasn't sure if I was going to make it. I got a lovely case of the COVID. That's right, the C-19 as they call it on the streets. No, they don't call it that. It put a bit of a damper on my Christmas. Not gonna lie. Listen, I'm doing better. I feel better today than I did yesterday, and definitely 2 days ago. I mean, at this point, you just have to plow through it, and it's the mild version of it, so I'm not like, going absolutely bonkers right now. I'm not like, having trouble breathing or have these excruciating headaches. None of that stuff. But, nonetheless, it sucks. Like, it's the real bad cold version of COVID. Anyway, well, the important thing is that I'm still around. And what's great here, actually, factually speaking, is that your Christmas was very likely better than mine. So there's a flower you can put in your cap right there. A feather. You can also put flowers. Flowers are a little harder to find around here anyway at this time of year. Feathers as well. Look, just put any kind of thing you want in your hat. Okay, if you put a cracker in your hat, a slice of bread, put a replica samurai saber. Like, who cares? Just, who cares? Just do it. So look, this is where we're at right now. We're gonna be I managed to sit down and watch Dynamite last night. Got my notes all ready. It was a good time to do that. Yeah, there's something. It felt normal after spending a couple of days completely out of it. So we're gonna have a good time talking about it today. So and apologies if my energy levels aren't maybe necessarily at the same level that they usually are. They're not, because I'm better, but I'm not quite 100% yet. But I will give my maximum effort, as you come to expect out of Mr. Warren Hayes and the Mr. Warren Hayes Show, whether you're watching it on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes or on your favorite podcast app. There you go. Leave a like and a subscription on YouTube, or maybe a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, or a 5-star rating on Spotify to help things out. Those things are tremendous, but we can get right into this review here, because we want to talk about the finals of league action, the semifinals of the Continental Classic that occurred on December 27, 2023. I'm recording this on December 28, as I usually do the next day. This hailed from Orlando, Florida, at the Edition Financial Arena. 5,729 tickets distributed. That is a very good number for AEW these days. We were very close to 6K. Gee willikers. Isn't that interesting? You have the finals of your the semifinals, I should say, of your highly touted tournament, your tournament that got, a lot of wrestling fans excited. That turned out to be very, very, very good. And suddenly you're like striking good attendance numbers. In that way, sure, Orlando's it's a wrestling town. We had a couple of familiar wrestling fan faces in that crowd. But nonetheless, as we've been doing for the past review shows, we are going to start by talking about the Continental Classic. And we were treated a true to form treat to the finals of both leagues. Show started off with the Gold League finals, and we had Jon Moxley defeating Jay White and Swerve Strickland in a 3-way match. Now, I'm gonna be the guy. This is gonna be me, and a lot of you are probably not even surprised what I'm gonna say. I'm not a fan. I'd said this, last times I was on this microphone. Didn't do a Warren Hayes show this week, so I'm confused now as to when was the last time. It was the Collision review. That was the last time I did. But I'm not a fan of the unbreakable 3-way tie. For a tournament, again, for a tournament that had been set up to have these great one-on-one matches where Tony Khan said when he announced the tournament, when he said it very assuredly, but also combatively, that there would be no outside interference. People would lose their jobs if they did. There'd be DQs and all that stuff. For a tournament that had been set up as straightforward pro wrestling matches one-on-one, I think it's kind of weird to have the finals of one of your leagues to be a 3-way. I think it's kind of strange, and that takes a little of the luster off of it for me. It sticks out like a sore thumb. It's like, how did we get here? And we didn't have to get here. Because then you can go back, anyone who I've chatted about this is like, but Warren, they ended up with the same amount of points. What are you going to do? I said, just don't book it that way. You know what I mean? Like, just don't book it that way. It's not this invariable force of nature here. It's just like, you don't have to do it this way. That's all. Pal, chum. Tony could have decided to just go with a one-on-one match. This is a choice. It's not something that happened by happenstance, I don't know if you still know this, but, wrestling's predetermined. Anywho. Despite this, I thought this was terribly good. I thought this was extremely good. With clearly and commentary said it right. For these matches here, we have to have a winner, so there's no DQs. Again, maybe a little something that went a little against everything that had been set up in the tournament, right? I'm like, do we really need to? Look, I don't know. We don't get no DQs at the G1 finals. The guys just wrestle a fucking match, and DQs are still enforced. And yes, there's referee's discretion, where the referee can leave things go because he doesn't, the referee doesn't want to make the bad call on the last play of the fourth quarter. No ref wants to be that. The ref here, you can understand the psychology of a referee just being a little more lenient as opposed to being like outright no DQs. I don't know. Is the COVID making me miserable, or is it just my usual level of miserable? Let me know in the comments. I'm not miserable. Well, I kind of am, but it has nothing to do with wrestling. It has to do with my health. Yeah, but they brawl into the arena, which was a lot of fun. Jay White early on gets in control of both baby faces. I'm baby facing Swerve Strickland at this point. Cool tweener. Heel leaning tween. And speaking of Swerve, he lands a frog splash to the floor, which was tremendous. Pile driver by Mox back in the ring, followed by the hammer and anvil elbows. Jon Moxley catches Swerve Strickland flying off the top into a Death Rider, covers, but Strickland kicks out. White just destroys Jon Moxley with a chair out on the floor, which was tremendous stuff. Power bombs. It's Swerve Strickland does a powerbomb into a power slam reversal, which was pretty good, kind of like a powerbomb into a jackhammer type thing. It was pretty cool. 450 splash by Swerve, covers, but Mox lands a stomp to break up the pin. And the guys are just, at this point, they're spent. They're going through hell. They're working hard. Everyone wants to win here. Jay White starts landing sleeper suplexes. Mox locks in a bulldog choke on White. White lands the Blade Runner. I am on the edge of my seat. I scream out, "Oh my God, he did it!" As if I've never watched a pro wrestling match before, but that's how invested I was in this. Swerve breaks up the pin. Swerve almost gets the pin on Jon Moxley, but Moxley eventually gets the win by landing a Death Rider on Jay White. I thought this was tremendously good. And look, for all the gripes I have, the end result is tremendous. I still would have preferred this, pure form pro wrestling tournament to end in the purest form of pro wrestling possible. I think we took a little took a little turn here, but this was nonetheless a tremendous. I give it 4.25 stars. I thought it was great, and what was tremendous here is that every guy worked terribly hard. And this is the story that I've told with every review, and this is the one that I will continue to tell up until we get to World's End and we see how this all culminates. But this has been a tournament that has become more important as it went on, as people started understanding it, understanding the round robin concept, but most importantly, as the wrestlers started to perform at a level to make us believe that what they were fighting for was meaningful, that was important to them to do it. So you could feel in this match that all three guys wanted to win. They all wanted the Continental Crown, they're calling it, right? Didn't I hear Excalibur call that a couple of times? The Continental Crown, their Triple Crown title that still has not been unveiled. Hopefully Tony will get it delivered on time for this Saturday. I still think it's an AEW title that's under I still think. But listen, I have very little gripes with the match itself. This was it was a tremendous match. Got people into it, got people excited. Almost went 25 minutes, 23 minutes, 14 on it. There's just a lot to love in this opener here. Jon Moxley wins. Look, if anything, and here's another explanation that people gave me, right? Here's another explanation people gave me for it being a three-way. Well, Jay White was there to take the pin because they had to keep Swerve strong. Well, then don't book the match. It's always these reasonings appear as if it's like these inevitabilities, like nature has brought down this decision upon us, like it's etched in stone, like it's some rule passed down by elder gods upon which we have to abide by, or end up in the fiery place. Yeah, just don't do the match then. If you have too many guys you have to protect, don't book them in a fucking match together. And quite frankly, Swerve is on too much of a roll now to be hurt, right? I understand. I'm not saying I don't understand why they did it. I'm just saying I don't agree. So Jay White, and here's the thing. Technically speaking, these are three protected guys in AEW. All three of them. If I'm not mistaken, and I should have done can I check this out real quick? Let me see if I can pull this up here real quick as I'm recording, because I don't want to do any editing today, Mom. That's okay. Because if I'm not mistaken, Jay White has lost only 3 times in singles matches in AEW, right? Am I right about this? Might be a little more. Okay, let's see. One-on-one. Let's see, he's lost 5 times overall, but that also includes New Japan. So, let's go see. That's it. It's like I'm pretty sure that in singles matches, he's been super protected. In New Japan in 2023, he's lost 3 times. He lost to Okada at Wrestle Kingdom, and then he lost the Loser Leaves Japan match to Hikuleo, and then he lost the Loser Leaves New Japan match to Eddie Kingston. So, when it comes to his AEW tenure, Jay White has lost to MJF, and he lost to Swerve in the Goldie. So technically speaking, these are 3 protected guys. Like, these are 3 protected guys. So I have no problem with them booking these things, right? With it's like when they had Hangman Page versus Swerve, right? And people were like, "Oh, who do you have win? You know, who's going to look bad?" No one ended up looking bad because it was a tremendous feud and well booked. And you can lose upward as opposed to losing down, which is what they did there. And they probably could have pulled this off here in the finals of the tournament here if they just wanted to go with Mox and Swerve, the rematch. But technically speaking, Jay White in singles competition in AEW has only lost twice this year. You know, that's a protected guy. These are, I mean, and I like, don't get me wrong, I like the idea of putting these guys in that all have a flair to them, right? That they're all like they're in the midst of something where you're like, oh, I really don't know who they're going to put over here. Now, you could sit back and look at this and say, well, Jay White was obviously the guy who was going to take the pin because Swerve's push, because Jon Moxley is probably the most protected guy in the company. Outside of that, you know, that was, you know, you could put your booking hat on and be like, well, this is the most logical path to it. And it makes a lot of sense. So, you know, I don't mind the concept. I don't mind, but it's still another protected guy that's taken a pin. Maybe the least protected of the 3, or the one guy that has the least going on. So if anything, this should be an indication to you as to what Tony has planned for Jay White moving forward. And you know what? Maybe it ain't much. That's all we'll leave it at that. But it's probably not nothing that's going to blow your mind anytime soon. There was a mixture of disappointment and relief that Swerve did not make it to the finals. I think everyone wants Swerve to. Hit the world title scene at ASAP. I'm telling you, as long as MJF is holding the title, you don't want Swerve Strickland close to the world title scene. I think the world title scene stinks. And as long as it's in this environment, it's not going to do him any favors. Swerve is establishing himself as one of the workers, one of the guys who is ready to go and keeping the bullshit at a minimum and making sure things come across as violent, authentic with big quotation marks. You can tell that's what that's what he wants, but he's I have mixed feelings. I'm not quite sure yet. I want to see, as Alexa Bliss once told us, I'm going to let things play out here just to see how the dust settles post Continental Classic, because I have a lot of thoughts on that. The one thing that we can say for absolutely certain is that the Swerve Strickland push has been tremendously successful. All throughout the match, people were chanting the Swerve's House gimmick. He has absolutely elevated himself into another level. He's changed lanes, as I like to often refer to them as, right? He's changed lanes in AEW. He's a guy who can credibly work with the top guys now. Absolutely. And he's going to keep rising. And I think taking their time here a little bit is a good idea. Maybe the Triple Crown deal wasn't a good fit for him. But he's a guy that absolutely has elevated himself. You know, when the Adam Page stuff was happening, you remember what I said? I said, look, this is all going really well for him. Tony is clearly giving him a ball. And it's up to us, it's up to him now to determine what he's going to do with said ball. Now that he has it, how is he going to run with it? How far is he going to run with it? How good is he going to run with it? How well is he going to run with it? And he's been doing a tremendous job. Like, he has been absolutely fantastic. Proving what a lot of people have been saying for a while. That Swerve his ceiling is world championship material. And let's keep on going. We have to keep building on this. And this is a thing that I don't necessarily have a lot of faith in Tony Khan when it comes to follow-ups to these big pushes. Wardlow, Orange Cassidy, Takeshita. A lot of guys, you feel like they're ready to move on, but they never move past their station. They're still in the same zone. You know? It's a little strange. But Swerve doesn't come out looking any worse here. Jay White, like I said, I think the analysis here is clearly he doesn't have anything significant set for him post C2. And Jon Moxley winning, well, I mean, it's a sure bet. You can't complain about Jon Moxley. Anyway, that's for the Gold League finals. As for the Blue League finals, I'm just going to continue patting myself on the back. Going back to when I was previewing the C2, and I told everyone, keep your eyes on the Blue League. The Blue League is where the magic is going to happen. Blue League is going to be the spot where everything is going to come together. And guess what? Not only did the Blue League consistently give us the best matches of the tournament, it gave us a kick-ass final in the pure tradition of a straight-up wrestling tournament should give you. No three-way situations, no goofy things and people swinging chairs, and no. Two guys beating the piss out of each other. Two guys who don't like each other. Two guys who could not be any more diametrically opposed on the spectrum of pro wrestling than these two gentlemen, than Eddie Kingston and Bryan Danielson. Eddie and he says it himself, he's a fighter, he's not a wrestler, and he's a guy who, he's angry at the world, he's got his own stuff going on in his head, and all he wants to do is wrestle, and he wants to wrestle like his heroes, fight like his heroes, I should say. And he's just a guy, right? He's not a technical wizard, and he'll be the first to say it. He's not a wrestler, he's a fighter. But he's a guy who speaks from the heart. That's how he connects with people. Danielson, he's probably the greatest North American to ever pro wrestle in the sport of pro wrestling. He's done it all, he can do it all. The man is a legend. He's the bar moving forward. He has never been not good. And this is a guy who wants a legacy, who wants to cement himself, and he has. And he's a guy who is respected for his work. Sometimes comes off a bit of an arrogant prick. You know, he knows he's too good. He knows he's that good. Okay. All right then. So that's it. This is what it was. A tremendous match between two guys who could not be more opposites. A guy who's a worker, complete and utter worker, a guy who wears his heart on his sleeve. And at all facets. You know? And yeah, look, I'm a simple guy. Sometimes all you want is two guys who just really don't like each other, just beating the piss out of each other. And I say really don't like each other. You know, we're not talking, you know, CM Punk and Jungle Boy here. That's not what I'm talking about. You can tell that Danielson and Kingston, Kingston always lets, there's always peeks behind the veil when he cuts promos, and oftentimes he'll get a little smarmy when it comes to Danielson. He'll just have a quip or two. I'm not saying that they hate each other, but they're not best friends. They're probably not even friends. The guys came here and they're pros, and they're like, yeah, let's do this. Eddie Kingston calling himself the king of the bums at the end of during the post match thing that's what he is. And he takes the mantle and he absorbs it. And this was tremendous. This was tremendous. This was absolutely fantastic. An underdog match, an underdog story, but not told in the tired WWE underdog way of telling stories, right? Where one guy just gets beat down the entire match and then he has the big comeback rally here. No, there were hope spots. There was some back and forth. But Danielson, when we're talking about the underdog story here, you're seeing Bryan Danielson at first just being a complete asshole to Eddie, going within the ropes, having that smirk, that grin on his face, as Eddie's trying to land some offense and Danielson's landing some kicks in and whatnot. He's just being a dick. And he's like, I'm above all of this. I'm going to beat all of you. I'm going to the end here. And it's not the most technically proficient match that you will see, but it is one of the best wrestling matches you will see on television this year for free. This is a thing where I'm looking at this, I'm like, this is tremendous. Everything that, and here's the thing is that all of the bad faith actors who say, AEW, can't tell stories, or, all the people, they do flippy doos and so on and so on. They should watch this match, but they won't. Or if they do, they won't talk about it because it goes against their narrative. Because this match it's pro wrestling, man. I don't know how to define it better. But they're landing moves on each other. Danielson's trying to lock in some submissions because he knows he's got Eddie covered in that game. Eddie's doing his best to stay out of them. And they're trading chops. And Eddie, what can Eddie do to counter a submission game? Turn Danielson's chest into hamburger. Or pastrami, like Taz said, Pastrami Jones over here. That's all he could do. And it worked. He lands he avoids, he being Kingston, avoids the corner kick, lands the Northern Lights bomb, but Danielson kicks out. And then I'm worried. At that point, I'm worried. I'm like, oh shit. Busaiku ni. I got to tell you, and I know Eddie Kingston is not everyone's cup of tea when it comes to in-ring work, but if there's one thing Eddie gets, it's in-ring psychology. Two things: in-ring psychology and the sell. And in this, when he ate the Busaiku ni, which is one of Daniel's. Look, when I saw that, I was like, oh shit, I got worried, right? Because Danielson has historically finished off people using the move, right? Eddie kicks out of it, but he doesn't like give a hefty kick out. No, he sort of his shoulder sort of just rolls over. It's like you could feel like every last inch of willpower, every last drop of willpower. I don't know if you measure it in millimeters or in milliliters or grams. I couldn't tell you, inches or ounces, but every last ounce of willpower he had was put into that roll. It's not even a kick out. Just lifting the shoulder up in the most desperate way, but no snap to it. No energy. It's like the guy's done, but he's not done fighting. And I thought that was tremendous. Danielson follows up with the hammer and anvil elbows. Some kicks to the head. But then Eddie fights back with the back fist, hits the half and half, more back fists, and hits powerbomb for the win. Had some arguments over whether it's a Kawada bomb or a Tenryu bomb. Look, let's discuss it in the comments. With civility. With civility. I have COVID, goddammit. No, but I mean, honestly, I don't. This is how you tell an in-ring story. This is how you make it happen. This is how you make your finish feel significant. This is how you create a situation where you have an underdog that has to overcome the odds without making me feel like an idiot, without shoveling down the same scenario that I've seen hundreds of times at this point. A fight. It felt like a fight. It felt like two guys on two completely different levels coming in for it. Eddie Kingston beats Bryan Danielson for the first time in his career. In every other time that they fought. First time in his career to end the Blue League on the note, Blue League should end. An absolutely tremendous match with heart, with drama, no fucking nonsense. Two guys. This was absolutely fantastic. Kingston goes to the finals. 4 3/4. I'm going high on this one. I fucking love this match. And I love the Blue League. And I told you, Blue League was going to be the league. I told you. But so now the finals are set. Jon Moxley, Eddie Kingston. And look at, again, AEW doesn't tell stories, right? Look at these finals between these two guys who have a long, storied history between the two. Not just outside of AEW, where this is always a complaint, like, oh, you have to watch all these other, rinky-dink promotions. No, even within AEW, these guys have history. They were teasing going after each other, having a program with the blood and guts thing, right? We took our time with it, and now we're bringing it around. Now everything sort of coalesces. Everything comes around. You had... Remember the promos where Renee was telling Eddie and Jon to get their shit together? Remember that? Now it's all come together in the finals of the Continental Classic. So fuck you that there are no stories in AEW. No, fuck you. I'm sorry. Look, again, you are being proved wrong. And stories don't mean, wackadoo, silly vignettes. You don't need that gobbledygook moving forward. This is how you tell stories in pro wrestling. I don't feel like a moron watching this. I mean, it's still pro wrestling, don't get me wrong. Wrestling is inherently stupid, but I don't feel stupid watching it. It's great. This was tremendous. So this is what we have set, and I think it's the finals that a lot of fans wanted. Listen, Kingston might just have. I think Kingston's getting the Naito push. This is what's happening. And if we really wanted to go full circle with the Naito push, well, he has to lose at World's End. That's what you do. You have him win. You come from behind to win the C2 and meet one of his rivals in the ring at the finals, and he comes up short. That's the Naito push. But I think at this point it's pretty clear that Eddie's going to win, right? And it's been a good story, and it's been well put together, well produced. We'll wrap up the C2 on the Mr. Warren Hayes show next Tuesday, provided that I don't die. I should be okay, right? Right. But there we go. That's where we're at. Jon Moxley, winner of Gold League, taking on Eddie Kingston, winner of Blue League, at the Continental Classic Finals at World's End this Saturday. But there was a whole wrestling show around this as well. And this is I thought this was a weird Dynamite. I can't say it was a good episode of Dynamite. I don't think it was good. I'm very thankful for these two final matches that we got. These two C2 matches, because they were tremendous. Just some of the best wrestling you'll see on free TV. But the rest of the show, I'm not convinced. It was a very go-homey show. It felt the rest of the show felt very go-homey and didn't have a lot of meat on the bone, and some things that I have some substantial quibbles about. I'm not sure, without the C2 matches, I think this could have been a bad Dynamite. Very easily could have been a bad Dynamite. But it's not. It's a weird one. It's a weird one that has two matches that I feel you need to seek out and watch. And everything else is legitimately skippable. Everything else is, you can just set aside. And I'm going to express this here, just to make sure that it's out of the way and we can move on with our lives until I bring this up every other episode like I usually do. Seeing how the rest of this episode played out, outside of the Continental Classic matches, and as good as the Continental Classic matches have been, and as good as Dynamite and Collision have been over the past weeks, I think it's undeniable. Both shows have been very good to great in some circumstances, elevated by the Continental Classic and the quality matches that was delivering. Now, looking at what happened on Dynamite last night, I wonder, is this a vision that we're having of a post C2 AEW? Is this what we're looking forward to? Because if so, I'm coming into a post C2 AEW with a little trepidation. Was the Continental Classic just thrown together by Tony Khan to give something for people like me, who watch AEW for very C2-esque reasons? Did he just throw that to people like me as a bone that we could chew on so that we could just be happy and stop bitching for a couple of weeks, for him to only return to his other flavor of AEW, the other flavor of ice cream, which does not appeal to me and doesn't appeal to a strong vocal part of the fan base as well? Is that what he did? Because there was this talk, right? MJF had tweeted out, restore the feeling. Let's restore the feeling. I kind of felt it. That collision last week, just tremendous stuff. One of the greatest episodes of Collision they ever put on. The greatest, I should say. Just, so I'm like, all right, we're hitting a stride here. All of this is good fucking good shit. Ratings are up. We're getting good attendance in Orlando for the semis. People are into it. This is what AEW feels like. But then the rest of this show happens and I'm like, well, is this it? Is this... Because there was nothing else on the show here that led me to believe that we are going to focus heavily once again on good pro wrestling matches, because the rest was very vapid. Not much going on. Angles and stories. I don't know. I'm not confident in a post C2 AEW based off of last night's show. Now, again, this was a go-home show. You're not firing up on, new stuff and, interesting new angles and concepts and matches the week before your big pay-per-view. So let's have this conversation again next Thursday when we have our truly first episode of AEW programming that does not have anything related to the Continental Classic, which has been buoying, raising everything else on the show. I mean, it's been occupying a whole lot of time on the show. Like if you're doing 3 15-minute matches a piece, right? There you go. That's 3/4 hours right there. It's hard to, 3 quality 15-minute matches, let's say, per show. Well, that's a good average. So it's hard for an episode of Dynamite to come across as shit then. But now that it's going to go away, I don't want to be too doom and gloom here. There's no point right now. But this is the feeling I have after last night's Dynamite. Is this what we're doing? Is this what's happening moving forward? Because I don't feel confident about it right now. Anyway, let's break down the rest of the show. We get the Gold League finals to start things off. We've already talked about that. Afterwards, Tony Schiavone is interviewing Swerve backstage. Swerve complains that, his arm is falling off. And he basically said that he's accepted Keith Lee's challenge at World's End for this Saturday, despite the fact that Prince Nana wasn't aware of his... Prince Nana wasn't aware of the contract, and that sort of threw him for a loop. But hey, So we're getting, finally, something that I didn't think that we're going to do. Swerve Strickland versus Keith Lee, and I'm sure someone out there is really excited for closure on this angle. Me, I'm like, I felt like we just moved on and we were never going to speak of this again, but clearly not. Anyway. Next, we had Renee Paquette interviewing Mariah May up on the stage. They're talking about how she brutally attacked Riho last week. And she did it for Toni Storm. And then she said, oh, you know, everyone's waiting patiently for my debut, but 2023 doesn't have the right vibe or what the fuck. And she's going to have her debut in 2024. She's making her debut next week. I don't understand why there is so much hype being put into this. Why the Mariah May debut is such a big deal. Like, I don't care. You know, just throw her in a match. Tony's trying to make her a big deal, which is fine. But here's the thing is that if she doesn't deliver, this is going to blow up in their face. It's going to be booking malpractice if she can't follow through here. And they're going to have her debut against who? Anna Jay? Who's good? Look. Riho shows up, chases down Mariah May. Toni Storm comes in to fight back, which I find. Listen, this is what I find odd in this story, right? Again, like I'm just gonna point this out because I want to, and not because I'm really invested in the timeless Toni Storm stuff, but. Isn't the shtick that Toni Storm doesn't know who Mariah May is and who cares, right? Where she's like, oh yeah, you know, kind of thing. It's like, whoever you are, it's nice, you know. Like she thinks she's a fan or whatever. So why is Toni Storm coming out to protect Mariah May? Or is there something I'm not understanding? I don't know. Action Andretti and Top Flight. They start cutting a promo. They issue a challenge to anyone. Just so happens Orange Cassidy, Trent, and Rocky Romero are within earshot. And they accept the challenge. And Action Andretti gulps a whole bottle of water. Where Excalibur could not maintain his composure. He takes the you know, one of these, you know, plastic bottles of water, and he sort of crushes the full bottle of water against his face, gulping down the whole water at once. That can't be good. I feel you could drown doing that. Action. That was pretty funny though. Just the most random shit. Christian Cage and the Patriarchy are backstage. They're getting ready for an interview, sit-down interview with Lexi Nair and Adam Copeland, but Copeland is not there. And well, why don't we run through this one? Well, instead of, because this goes on. We throw back to it at a couple of times during the show where Christian Cage is annoyed that he's there, he's ready, but Copeland is not professional. Where the hell is he? Kind of thing. And towards the end of the show, Copeland finally shows up and he attacks, goes straight for Christian Cage, who, by the way, refers to Nick Wayne's mom, Shayna Wayne, as Mother Wayne. There's nothing not great about this. Anyway, they get into a pull-apart brawl, essentially, backstage where they have the locker room come out to try and break them apart, and it's fun, effective. I'm into it. They're leading into their no DQ match at World's End this weekend. It's fine. I thought this was great. Honestly, I do not know though how you cannot get behind Christian Cage. I don't know how you can. He's doing this for all the single mothers in the world, right? That's what he said. He was on Collision. He said he was going to beat Adam Copeland for all the single mothers. How can you not stand with Christian Cage here? Are you against single mothers? You have to think about where you stand here, folks. We get a Miro promo again. Look, it's finally happening. Andrade versus Miro at the Pape. And again, I think Miro is much less interesting now that Lana's around. Then we have Tony Schiavone, who's in the ring for a Boxing Week celebration. It's fun. I'm a Canadian. I know what Boxing Day is. Boxing Week is not as much of a thing, but it kind of is. It's like Black Friday week, or Black Friday month. There's Boxing Week, whatever. Look, it doesn't matter. The point I'm trying to make here is that all of y'all Americans, you sit there and you're like, oh, Boxing Day. It's so weird. Boxing Day is a day for sales. You guys have fucking Black Friday and you trample over each other for these deals. Now, hang on a second. We're gonna have a moment of real talk here. You cannot come after any Canadian or any member of the Commonwealth that observes Boxing Day as a capitalistic way to spend your money. You cannot come after them if you are the instigator of Black Friday and people literally punch each other and trample over each other to get deals. All right? Are we clear here? We're going to stop thinking Boxing Day is such a funny thing, okay? Is it, ooh, how quaint? No. It's the same fucking thing, except we don't crush each other. And also, not unlike Black Friday now, Boxing Day is fucking meaningless. There's no such thing as a real Boxing Day deal anymore. It's all nonsense. It's all marketing at this point. The real sales start in January, when then they really have to get rid of their inventory for the spring stuff. There's no real sales. I'm sick of it. Boxing Day, get Boxing Day. Black Friday, people get hurt and get run over by cars and stab each other for LED TVs. Come on now. Look inward, America. So the Don Callis family comes out for the Boxing Week celebration, and Don essentially says, he's thankful for his family, who are, Powerhouse Hobbs, Konosuke Takeshita, and Kyle Fletcher, who is wearing his newly earned Ring of Honor television title. And he has a series of paintings to give to each of the boys, each of the lads. He has an absolutely tremendous painting of he himself and Powerhouse Hobbs thugging it out. Just absolutely tremendous. And he has him and Takeshita, and he looks like a Yakuza boss with the tattoos. It's amazing stuff. Then him and Kyle Fletcher punching kangaroos. All right. And all this is all fun and games until Sammy Guevara's music hits. And then he comes out and he looks mad at Don. Don is like, long time no call. Sammy's pissed off because Don Callis hasn't been calling him. And Don is like, oh, you didn't get the gift for the kid? He's trying to weasel his way out of it. Sammy's not buying it. He says, well, look, I have a gift for you. And it's a painting of all of the Don Callis family, including Sammy, who's holding the baby. And they're all like, oh, they're all happy and pointing at the baby. And it is tremendous. Again, Mel Coleman, she's tremendous. Good on her for being, Don Callis' go-to artist. She's just doing tremendous stuff. And I think, personally, I think it's a great gimmick too, that Callis is doing this. So Sammy gets pissed off and he says, "Who said you could put my baby on there?" And I'm like, dude, like I know in pro wrestling, the thing is that you don't bring up the family. Don't talk about my wife. Don't talk about my kids, and all that. But he had a nice painting done. Like, if anything, like I look at that and it's, I can't get offended. I don't even know if that looks like the baby. Like, the baby is Sammy's kid is like wrapped up in a it's all swaddled. There's the word I was looking for. All swaddled all up. The head, you just have the head peeking out of a cocoon of wrappings, right? But that probably doesn't even look like the kid. Like, who cares? And Sammy gets pissed off at it. And Sammy's mad for some reason. And Don then goes after Sammy, and he gives him an ultimatum. He says, "Look, you're either with us or against us," essentially. And Sammy turns on him, officially making Sammy Guevara the Big Show of AEW. Officially, remember before he took his paternity leave, he was a heel. Now he's back being a babyface, and I don't think he got that much of a reaction. Even coming out, people didn't get that much of a reaction seeing him come out, and he's been gone for months. Then Chris Jericho comes in, that gets a big reaction. Then people start caring, and then he takes out the group because he's got the baseball bat. But then Big Bill and Ricky Starks come out of nowhere to attack Jericho, and then of course they attack Sammy, and then the lights go out. They come back on. Sting and Darby Allin are there. Okay, we're clearly setting something up, I guess. I thought they were setting up Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara as the challengers for Big Bill and Ricky Starks, seeing that Kenny Omega's out, right? It's not very clear. I honestly don't know. And all of this was like, okay, listen. They're going to do something with Sting and Darby here, and we'll see what happens, okay? As it stands right now, we'll just leave it at that. But when it comes to when it comes to Sammy Guevara, I think it is a terrible mistake to make him a babyface. I don't know why Tony Khan insists on trying to babyface this guy when he comes across like a slime ball. Like, being a heel is his natural forte. There's no other reason to do this, to put him on TV, if he's not going to be a heel. And now he's back with Chris Jericho and people. So again, like, this is very Big Show stuff here, where don't know. 1 week he's one thing, and a couple of weeks later he's another. Then you wonder why it's hard to get behind Sammy Guevara. No one cares. The only time he can, I'll tell you why he's back with Chris Jericho, because it's the only time people care about Sammy Guevara is when he's with Chris Jericho. Sammy Guevara on his own doesn't work. Not on the level that they want him to work. This is another guy that he's a top guy. Sammy's not a top guy. Sammy is not a top guy. Look at how Swerve Strickland has elevated himself and has convinced a lot of people that he is a top guy. Sammy Guevara just doesn't. Sammy doesn't have the requisite tools to be perceived as a top guy. He's going to be a good little mid-carder. That's fine. Best parallel I can draw is Carmelo Hayes, where everyone says, oh, Carmelo Hayes is the next big guy, is the next top thing. Carmelo has lots of great qualities. Top guy, I don't see them. Same thing with Sammy. And in fact, listen, Carmelo Hayes has a crowd connection. If we're going to do, if I'm going to push my comparison here a little more, I think overall Carmelo is more successful. He has a crowd connection. People don't like Sammy because Sammy's not likable. So play off his strengths. That's why when they had him turn and join the Don Callis family, it's like, yes, okay, this is what you need to do. This works. I don't know. It's very weird to me. And I also don't understand why Sammy was so mad just because, I don't know. None of it matters. None of it matters. Renee Paquette is backstage with Roderick Strong, who has a murder board about the devil. I cannot tell you how desperately annoyed I am in regards to all of this devil bullshit. Oh, I'll tell you in a second. Then we have Danielson versus Kingston, which we talked about. Then we get the post-match where Jon Moxley comes out, has a microphone, and he says, all I've ever asked of you, Eddie, every time I put my neck out for you, put my reputation on the line, is that I believed in him, is that I believe in you, excuse me. And all I ask of you is to give you 100%. And for somebody who hates the world, who thinks the world is against them, lots of people love him. Audience cheers for Eddie, of course. But Moxley knows him better than he knows himself. And they both know that Eddie can't beat Mox. And he's already lost. He's already given up. And he's already got his excuses lined up. He says, you want to win so desperately, you want to win a triple crown like your heroes, where you're going to have to earn every single inch. Eddie yanks the microphone out of his hand. Says, you all right, you've talked enough. Don't talk to me like I'm your young boy bitch, Yuta. But he basically says that on Saturday, the King of Bums is going to win. He said, this one time when I wanted to quit AEW, John, you told me that I needed to be around to shape the younger guys. And he'll give it everything he's got. And he'll show him fighting spirit. And he expects to see his. I'm jacked for the match. There's the ticket. There you go. That's all. Perfect. Story, everything makes sense. This is wonderfully booked. Then we get more. We get some Christian Cage, Adam Copeland stuff. We already talked about it. Then Sky Blue. Listen, this is the whole first hour of Dynamite had the one match, and then a whole bunch of nonsense. Then we started squeezing matches in. Sky Blue defeated Chris Statlander. I don't know, man. Sky Blue, I'll give her credit here. I think she did her best Code Blue here of her entire career. Good and snappy. It looked great. She wins with an avalanche, Code Blue. Statlander was just showing off her strength here, doing stalling vertical suplexes, does a chaos theory as well. It was a fine little match. But Sky Blue, man, Sky Blue is the wrestling version of the stop trying to make fetch a thing meme, right? I don't know why we're insisting so much on Sky Blue. It's not getting better. At some point, you cut bait. I don't know. After the match, Julia Hart got involved in the match to cost Statlander the win. After the match, Hart and Blue attack Statlander. Willow Nightingale comes out for the save, and then Abaddon pops up at the top of the stage because all the spooky people in AEW are feuding. That's all right. It's fine. Moving on. Renee Paquette is with Ruby Soho and Saraya. She says, she being Saraya, she tells Ruby Soho that she has a birthday present for her, and that birthday present is Harley Cameron, freshly ejected from QTV. Saraya says that she will do anything and is great with her hands. What? What are... And Ruby gets a call from Angelo Parker and she leaves. And Harley Cameron has a knife. She's got like a butcher's knife. And she's like, as long as she doesn't rap, I'm okay with whatever. As long as Harley Cameron doesn't rap, I'm okay. Back from commercial, commentators put over FTR being Pro Wrestling Illustrated and ESPN's Tag Team of the Year. Should have been last year when they had won all the titles and were having match of the years one after the other, but hey, no one ever listens to me. Like for real, honestly, sincerely and deeply. Look at FTR's 2022 versus their 2023. Tell me which year is better. Let's be honest with each other, okay? And finally, the main event, where MJF and Samoa Joe lose the Ring of Honor. Excuse me. Ooh. Little COVID fatigue kicking in. Lose the Ring of Honor tag team titles to a couple of the putties. The challengers come through the crowd. They don't have music or anything. They just come through the crowd in their mask. And I swear one of the guys is, I swear, the way he walks, I swear it's Kyle O'Reilly. I swear it feels unmistakable. MJF then comes in, but Samoa Joe doesn't come out because, gasp, he's been injured backstage. So Max has to fight all by himself. There's a match here that happens, but it's so short, and who cares? Because no one else did. Because it ended up, listen, Max here, and God knows I love MJF. I really do. Max here gets hit with a pipe on his injured shoulder, right? He gets hit with a pipe from a putty that's under the ring, and then gets rolled into the ring for a pin, but the putties have to put their feet on the ropes to like double cheat. This is some Hulk Hogan bullshit, folks, okay? There's no other way to call it. The pipe should have been enough. But what is Max trying to tell us here? Like they have to double cheat to make sure that he gets the win? Come on, Max. Jesus. Anyway, the putties win the titles. It doesn't matter. They beat down, including the guy that was under the ring. They beat down on Max. There's a couple. Look, there's multiple putties. Joe comes in, chases them off, then gets Max up onto his feet, cracks him across the back with a chair, and lands the muscle buster. Was Samoa Joe the devil the whole time? Who cares? Let's get this shit done. Let's finish the story at World's End this Saturday. so we can move on. And we never have to put up with this ever again. Samoa Joe. Oh, maybe Samoa Joe's the devil. Who cares? I don't care who it is at this point. None of it matters. At this point, I feel like they're going to have to pull out something stunning for me to get even remotely excited about this. Because as it stands, I just want this over. I want this done. And a month ago, I was content in the idea that Max was going to lose the title at World's End. We were going to get world champion Samoa Joe. And I think it was a plausible thing to piece together. Joe winning the world championship, big stage, major stage. He's tremendous. Maybe this is also Tony Khan's way of saying thanks for helping him out at Wembley, right? With the whole Phil Brooks situation. Seeing how much of a valuable player he is. And Joe is a credible world champion. He's tremendous. And he vacated the TV title. A month ago, I was like, hey, you know what? Maybe Joe is winning the title and there's a good case for it. Now I'm not so sure. Now I'm really not sure that MJF is winning the title, that is dropping the title. I'm not. The thing is, what we all have to keep in mind is that all of this brochacho devil stuff can happen whether there's a title involved or not. That's the thing. That it can all happen whether you have a title involved or not. So, folks, this is why I am entering a post C2 AEW with a little trepidation here. Because we're still doing this type of nonsense. See what happens at World's End, and we'll see what happens next weekend on Dynamite, but I'm not confident. I'm not sitting here feeling good about it. Leave it at that. Leave it at that indeed. We're going to wrap up today's edition of the Dynamite Review. Thank you everyone for joining me today. Again, one last pitch for a subscription on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes, or a like on the video, or a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, 5-star rating on Spotify. I'll be back Tuesday, I hope. I feel like I shouldn't promise these things anymore. I'll be back soon. No, hopefully probably, very likely, for an edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show this Tuesday. I'm going to review World's End. I'm going to preview Wrestle Kingdom, so I got to be there. It has to happen. It has to happen. Otherwise, more Dynamite next Thursday, more Collision the Sunday after. Everyone, have a great rest of your day, great rest of your week. Continue enjoying the holidays, and we'll see you in the new year.